Back in the Wallachian camp, Vlad gathered his 7,000 cavalry. These weren't just soldiers, they were men who'd lost family to Ottoman raids, whose lands faced conquest. The priest blessed them, knowing most wouldn't see dawn. But then Vlad revealed his intelligence. They wouldn't charge blindly, they'd follow specific paths, hit exact targets. Groups of 500 would strike different sectors simultaneously. The goal wasn't to fight 150,000 men, it was to make 150,000 men fight themselves. Midnight approached. No moon. Vlad had chosen this night specifically for darkness. The cavalrymen wrapped their horses' hooves in cloth, muffling sound. They blackened their armor to kill reflections. Each group leader carried a sketch of their sector drawn from Vlad's reconnaissance. Primary targets, officer tents marked by pennants. Secondary, supply wagons. Tertiary, create maximum chaos. The attack began not with a charge, but with infiltration. Vlad's Turkish-speaking scouts slipped past sentries using the passwords he'd learned. They reached the gunpowder wagons and set slow fuses, giving them time to escape before hell broke loose. Other infiltrators cut horse tethers, loosened tent stakes, scattered caltrops along escape routes. Then at exactly 1 a.m., 7,000 horses erupted from 7 directions. The Ottoman perimeter guards died before they could sound alarms, crossbow bolts finding throats in darkness. The cavalry burst through outer defenses like a flood through a dam, and that's when the gunpowder wagons exploded. Fire and thunder shattered the night. Massive fireballs climbed skyward, turning night into hellish day for brief moments before plunging the camp back into deeper darkness. Confused Ottomans stumbled from their tents directly into Wallachian lances. But here's the genius. The attackers screamed in Turkish, shouting conflicting orders. The Christians are in the east sector. Form ranks at the supply depot. The Sultan is under attack! In the darkness, Ottoman soldiers couldn't tell friend from foe. When they heard Turkish, they assumed allies. When they saw shapes in Ottoman gear stolen from earlier raids, they hesitated. That hesitation proved fatal. Janissaries rushing to defend their sultan collided with Sipahi cavalry responding to different alarms. In the chaos, they started killing each other. The screams in Turkish and Romanian mixing created an audio nightmare. Orders contradicted orders. Officers shouted commands only to be cut down by unseen blades. Tents collapsed as their stakes were pulled, trapping men inside. Loose horses stampeded through the camp, adding to the chaos. The Wallachians had turned the Ottoman camp into a death trap of its own making. Vlad himself led the strike toward Mehmed's pavilion. This was the ultimate goal. Kill the Sultan, and the invasion dies with him. 200 of Wallachia's finest cavalry formed a spear aimed at the camp's heart. They carved through confused defenders, guided by tent positions Vlad had memorized. The pavilion loomed before them. The golden crescent gleamed in firelight. Vlad's lance pierced the first guard. His sword found the second. They burst into the tent, weapons ready for the killing blow. But instead of Mehmed, they found his grand vizier scrambling for his sword. The Sultan had moved tents as a precaution, a habit from his campaign days. Janissaries, finally organized, converged on the pavilion. These elite troops didn't panic like the others. They formed a wall of steel and discipline. Vlad had minutes before being overwhelmed. He made the only choice: sound the retreat. Horns echoed through the burning camp, the signal for all groups to withdraw. As the Wallachian cavalry melted back into the night, they left behind more than death. They left doubt. Dawn revealed the cost. 15,000 Ottomans lay dead, killed by Wallachians, by fire, by their own comrades in confusion. Hundreds of supply wagons smoldered. The medical corps, already overwhelmed by disease, now faced thousands of wounded. Among the dead were dozens of senior officers, irreplaceable veterans who knew how to manage such a massive force. Mehmed lived, shaken and furious, but alive. Instead of retreating to regroup, he ordered immediate march to Târgoviște, understanding the game now. June 17th brought signs that made the leading elements stop so suddenly that ranks collided behind them. Ottoman scouts reported something strange ahead, tall shapes on the horizon, too uniform to be trees. As the army crested the final hill before Târgoviște, hardened veterans who'd conquered cities from Belgrade to Baghdad stood frozen. Some fell to their knees, others vomited. Before them stretched a forest, But these weren't trees, they were stakes. 20,000 wooden poles rose from the earth in perfect geometric patterns, and on each stake hung a corpse. The smell hit them first. In the summer heat, 20,000 corpses in various stages of decay created a stench that made brave men weep. The buzzing of millions of flies created an unholy drone. But the true genius was in the details. These weren't random victims. Vlad had arranged them by rank and origin. Ottoman soldiers recognized uniforms, faces. There, a captain who disappeared on patrol. Here, a tax collector who'd vanished months ago. The stakes grew taller toward the center, creating an amphitheater of death. And at the highest point, on a stake that required special construction to raise, sat a figure that broke the Ottoman command. Hamza Pasha, Mehmed's favorite general and close friend, captured months earlier. The Sultan had assumed him ransomed or dead, but there he sat, impaled on the tallest stake, positioned so he seemed to survey the Ottoman army with dead eyes. His armor still gleamed. His beard was carefully groomed. Vlad had preserved him specifically for this moment, a message written in flesh and friendship. Each stake required hours to prepare. Each body had to be lifted, positioned. The geometric precision wasn't random. It showed planning, patience, terrible purpose. This wasn't battlefield brutality. This was psychological warfare elevated to art. The forest spoke a language only conquerors understand. This is what awaits you all. Mehmed rode forward, his face a mask. Contemporary accounts differ on his exact words, but the meaning was clear. A man who can do this to his own land, to anyone who opposes him, such a man cannot be conquered, only avoided. The Sultan who'd breached Constantinople's walls, who'd never known true defeat, looked upon Vlad's masterpiece and understood something fundamental. Some victories cost more than defeat ever could. The Ottoman army began to crack. Whispers spread through ranks. Is our own impalement waiting? Would we join this forest? Regular soldiers edged backward. Even janissaries muttered prayers. The image burned into every mind. 20,000 stakes, 20,000 warnings. And somewhere nearby, the man who'd orchestrated this waited with his remaining forces. Then came the sight that broke an empire's will completely. Children's voices rose from Târgovişte's walls, a church choir singing Orthodox hymns. The contrast between innocent songs and the field of death created a cognitive dissonance that shattered morale. Vlad had orchestrated even this detail, knowing how the juxtaposition would affect minds already pushed to breaking. Mehmed II, the conqueror whose name made kings tremble, gave an order that shocked his entire command structure. Retreat. Not regroup, not probe for weakness, full retreat. The man who'd conquered Constantinople turned his army around. His stated reason, I cannot take the land from a man like this. Let him keep his throne. But his eyes, witnesses said, never left Hamza Pasha's elevated corpse. The retreat began as ordered withdrawal, but became something closer to flight. Ottoman soldiers, convinced Wallachian devils waited in every shadow, abandoned supplies in their haste. Behind them, Vlad's forest of the dead stood as testimony to will triumphant over numbers. The precision terrified as much as the brutality. This wasn't madness, it was method. The man who conquered Constantinople turned his army around because Vlad had mastered something that changed warfare forever: psychological impact over physical destruction. He never defeated the Ottoman army in conventional battle. He couldn't. But he defeated their will to fight, which proved far more effective. The forest of the dead became a mental barrier, more impenetrable than any castle wall. Future Ottoman expeditions into Wallachia would remember Târgoviște and find reasons to campaign elsewhere. The strategic implications rippled across Europe. Mehmed's retreat bought crucial time for Hungary, Poland, and the Habsburg lands to prepare defenses. Ottoman expansion into Europe slowed partly from this psychological check. One small principality's resistance altered the course of continental history through systematic terror. 30,000 had indeed defeated 150,000, not through strength, but through understanding that terror itself could be a weapon. Vlad had learned in Ottoman captivity that empires run on confidence. shatter that confidence, make the cost of victory too psychologically expensive, and even conquerors retreat. Subscribe to Great History for more battles where psychological warfare defeated impossible odds and one man's will changed history forever.